If you've been a friend of mine, you'll know that I've been a big fan of the Acura TL. This sedan has really put Acura on the map in terms of driving dynamics and solidity, and upon the release of the 3.7-liter V6 and super handling all-wheel drive, it turned what was once an already sharp driving sedan into an absolute beast of a Honda on the road. Of course, all the hubbub has gone to the 3rd gen, especially in Type S form, but Acura made things even beefier with the 4th gen, especially with this muscly combination. So my friends, I'm really happy to introduce to you the holy grail of Honda and Acura sedans, the 2012 Acura TL all-wheel drive 6-speed manual. Manual! Hello and welcome back, my dear friends, to yet another banger. I introduce you to the 4th gen Acura TL. This has been a personal dream car of mine since this thing was new. If you don't know much about Acura's 4th gen TL, I'll give you a little bit of a rundown. Acura made these from the 2009 model year all the way to 2014. Previously, we had the 3rd gen TL, of course, which was a great sedan, and I really feel like Acura only improved it from there. It is bigger, of course, in almost every way, because Acura really wanted this to compete with stuff like the Lexus GS, BMW 5 Series, Mercedes-Benz E-Class, and Volvo's S80. The 4th gen TL was made specifically for the American market. However, Acura and Honda did sell the larger RL, or the Honda Legend, in Japan. By this time, it did use the same powertrain as this car. Acura really wanted a strong start for the TL lineup because even the base TL got a new 3.5-liter V6, upgraded from the previous 3.2, which was already a powerful motor. Then, of course, the larger of the two engine options was this 3.7-liter V6 with standard super handling all-wheel drive. This 3.7, at least as of right now, is Honda's largest production engine ever. In the mid-2000s, there were rumors of the larger RL using a V8, but that never happened. So this 3.7 is the most muscly Honda engine ever. 1 year after its release, Acura introduced the 6-speed manual with the 3.7-liter. While Acura never made a 4th generation TL Type S, they still wanted to add a spiritual successor with the 6-speed manual. So they included a built-in performance package that turned things up to 11. It added thicker front and rear sway bars, stiffer springs with different dampers, stiffer engine and transmission mounts, a heavy-duty front differential and heavy-duty axles, and Acura even says that they tuned the steering specifically for the 6-speed. Unfortunately, when this 4th gen first came out, consumers and journalists weren't too happy with how it looked. I personally never took any offense to it, but people really did not like Acura's first version of their beak grille. It definitely was sharper on the older model, so in 2012, thankfully Acura refreshed the TL like this one. They gave it a softer front end with new headlights, a new grille, and a new front bumper, and they changed the taillights slightly with a new rear bumper. And also, Acura added things like smart key access and cooled seats in the advanced package. Most importantly, for this 2012 refresh, the base 3.5 TL was given a new 6-speed auto from the previous 5-speed. And as 2014 came around, Acura was already planning on getting rid of both the TSX sedan and this TL and merging both of those sedans into one mid-sized sedan that was the Accord-based Acura TLX. The TLX is a good car, but I really don't feel like it has the charm of this car or the previous TL, or even the TSX. Now, this beautiful unicorn next to me absolutely deserves the unicorn title. This belongs to my friend Greg. This is his latest addition to his fleet, and I'm really happy that he found this car. It's an absolute gem of a machine. This is a 2012 Acura TL tech package with the 3.7-liter V6, super handling all-wheel drive, and most importantly, the 6-speed manual transmission. Especially nowadays, this spec is getting harder and harder to find, especially in good shape. This thing is only sitting at 169,000 miles, which is nice, under 200. And as you can see, it's painted in Acura's Nighthawk Black Pearl. It really is a sharp-looking car. I love the lines, I love the proportions, I really just love everything about this car, so I'm really enamored to be with one in person. The tech package is the mid-trim for the TL, and it's the only trim that you could get the manual transmission with. Thankfully, it did add a number of nice accoutrements, like the upgraded ELS sound system, factory navigation with a backup camera, camera, slightly nicer materials when it comes to the seats, and then also the smart key access system with push button start. All of those standard features with the big engine, four-wheel drive, and the manual transmission got this at an MSRP of $42,985. That still is cheaper than some of its competitors in 2012. Even a Lexus GS350 was approaching $50,000. When it came to trim levels for the 2012 TL, you could choose 3 choices, starting at the base for about $36,000. Again, that's with the 280 horsepower V6 and front-wheel drive. Then we have the tech package like this one, and then the loaded advanced trim. And a loaded advanced TL was just about $45,000 at most. And it offered a bunch of features like pre-collision braking, blind spot monitoring, cooled seats, and a bunch of other stuff. Honestly, when it comes to the running gear, this is the last of the raw Honda driving cars. They just exude the true mechanical feeling that a lot of us enthusiasts enjoy. Again, this one has the larger of the 2 engines, making this a muscle car for a Honda, you know. My friends, I bring to you the bee's knees. Again, this is Honda's largest displacement engine that they've ever produced, the J37A4. This is the engine that I like and the kids like. People put this in everything now, at least they're trying to. I personally have like 4 dream Honda builds that have this engine in it, but you know, that'll never happen. This is Honda and Acura's 3.7-liter single overhead cam V6. You'll only find this engine in Acura products like the TL, the 2nd Gen MDX, and also the Acura RL. In this application, it makes 305 horsepower and 273 pound-feet of torque. Those power figures are almost identical to the Lexus GS350 of the same time, but of course the German brands had slightly more powerful engines. For being a naturally aspirated engine, there's actually a lot of aftermarket bolt-on mods that you can do to this engine. It's not like you're gonna make an Audi or BMW amount of power, but this sure is a beefcake of a motor. And once again, this engine is paired to a crisp 6-speed manual transmission and Acura's super handling all-wheel drive. This is not like Honda's front-wheel drive based systems, even though this is a transverse mounted engine. This can actually send up to 70% of power to the rear axle, and then it can transfer torque between each rear wheel up to 100% of power. So the all-wheel drive system will really encourage you and help you drive this in a spirited manner. SH-AWD is really one of the best in the business, I have to say that. In terms of MPGs, Acura rated this at 17 in the city, 25 on the highway, and a combined rating of 20. I would say those numbers are pretty accurate, but Greg's actually been averaging 21, 22 MPG with this. Thankfully, the TL still continues its statement in terms of reliability. Honda's V6s are known to be pretty reliable, but they do run on timing belts. They have to be replaced every 7 years or 100,000 miles, and it's about 7 years since this one's been done. The 3.7 is known to be pretty stout, but this engine is also known for having some oil consumption issues. Personally, my dad had an MDX with this engine and it ran out of oil twice. The oil burns from the piston rings just like a lot of other vehicles, so you just have to keep up with oil changes. Make sure you're putting good oil in this. Some cases you might not be able to tell, but most of the time you will have an inkling. Otherwise, the 4th gen platform is very bulletproof, even in automatic transmission form. It's not like the older Acuras where you'll get gypped with transmission problems. By the way, this thing weighs about 3,800 pounds. It looks like a big sedan, and it is a heavy sedan, but it's the same weight as a lot of its other mid-sized competitors, and some of its smaller competitors are the same weight as well. However, even with its heft, this thing can still get to 60 in about 5.5 seconds. Dang it, I was too soft. I do appreciate a sedan that is honest to its size. This thing doesn't have ridiculous front or rear overhangs or preposterous styling like some of these newer sedans. This thing sits at 194 inches long, making it 3 inches longer than the 9th gen Honda Accord sedan and 5 inches longer than the previous gen 3rd gen TL. However, it is the same length as the new Acura TLX, which has just been discontinued. This one, being the tech package, is riding on these 18-inch alloy wheels. All TLs with the tech package will come with these wheels, but there were some nice accessory wheels that you could get. The base TL got 17s and the advanced package got very beautiful 19s. Thankfully, Acura has been thoughtful when it comes to getting into the trunk of the TL. You could either open the trunk with the key fob, the button inside the car, or if you have a tech package or advanced, with the smart key access system, there's a button on the deck lid itself, and then it reveals a very useful 12.5 cubic feet of volume. The front wheel drive TL has about 13 cubic feet of volume, so it's not too much different, but it's because of the rear differential and all that. It is impressive, even compared to new cars like the new TLX. You can still fit a rear axle, rear differential, and all the all-wheel drive components while still having a spare tire. That's a W on that Accord. Thankfully, the opening is wide and the trunk itself is pretty deep, but I will say that the second row doesn't fold flat. You just get a little pass-through in the middle. I do appreciate, like in other luxury sedans, there's an actual handle to close the trunk so you don't have to get the paintwork dirty, and you can't kidnap someone in this because it has the child safety latch. That's not me making noise, you see. It's not me. We're gonna get in. In the rear seat of the TL, thankfully it is quiet and less giggly out here, in here. I'm 5'9", and as you can see, I still have plenty of space, and the driver's seat is actually beyond where I sit, because Greg's taller than me. I have maybe 3 inches of legroom, I can fit my feet under the seat, and then I have an okay amount of headroom. Myself, I'm comfortable, but if you're maybe above 6 feet, you might be having some hair issues with the headliner. This definitely is a 4-passenger car, or if you have 3 kids in the back, it should be acceptable, but adults can't fit in this middle seat. This really is one of the more comfortable rear seats I have experienced, though. It's supportive, the leather feels nice. I also just quite like all the materials and the design of the interior. We do have some amenities back here. As you can see, we have 2 air vents for the rear passengers. We don't get a 3rd climate control zone, but that's okay. And there's an armrest with 2 small cup holders, but the armrest is pretty nice at least. And then again, with this armrest, we have a, wow, that is small, a small pass-through for skis or what have you. But the rear seat of the TL really does feel like a more premium experience. Now it's the moment we've really all been waiting for, driving the 6-speed all-wheel drive 3.7 Acura TL. Welcome to the interior experience. It really is an absolute joy, and I'm very excited to share this moment with you. First of all, we can get ready for takeoff, seat belts, and then this thing, because it has the smart key access system, as it's a tech package, this is the key fob. This is Acura's mid to late 2000s smart key fob. It reminds me of the new one. But we have the lock, unlock, trunk release, and panic button. But because of this, all you have to do is keep this key anywhere inside the car. There's also a slot that you can put the key in that charges it. But we just have to put our foot on the brake and clutch and press the start button to go. If you're used to the Acuras of this era, it's honestly very nice, and it just continues that same vibe. People like to complain about the amount of buttons in here, but this really isn't that much. The center stack reminds me of the 3rd Gen TL because we have the climate controls on the outer edges and then the radio and all that on the inside of this. But I really think that people were full of baloney back in the day saying that there's too many buttons. I find the interior of this to be pretty comforting. The materials that they used are nice, even the dash and the lower parts of the doors. Like, some parts will be plastic, but it's a nicer feeling plastic. There's nice stitching all along the interior, like on the seats, the door cards, and even the back seats too. This one does have the black interior, but some of these could get a brown interior, which is an ultimate combination to get. However, I'm not sure if you could get that with this stick. You can see we have this wonderful 3-spoke leather-wrapped steering wheel. The buttons on the left side control the audio and Bluetooth functions, and the buttons on the right side control the cruise control functions, as well as the little information display in the gauges. There's not too much in there. It's more of just a trip computer, but there is a decent amount of info that you can read. And the gauges themselves, in typical Acura fashion, they look very nice. We have the floating needles, very premium experience. They just look great. Behind the steering wheel, you can see on the left side we have automatic headlights, and on the right side we don't have rain sensing wipers though. Again, I really appreciate how everything is laid out. The window controls are right here. The front windows are auto up and down, but not the rears. The driver's seat has 2-person memory, and that also ties into the wing mirrors. So there's a whole lot of creature comforts that I'd be very satisfied still driving this car. I don't need something brand new. We can get going though. Immediately, I was impressed with how this thing drives. It doesn't feel like you're driving a Lexus or something. You do feel the added sharpness of this car, but it really is surprisingly easy to drive. The clutch is light. It just feels like I'm driving a normal, well, a V6 Accord. I'm honestly glad that they didn't put nonsense in here. The clutch does bite towards the middle. And it's actually kind of easy to shift. This does have a dual mass flywheel, so if you're a little bit heavier on the gas, you will notice some rev hang, but we might see that later. As you're just driving this normally, this does feel like a larger sedan. It feels similarly sized to the GS350 and also the Volvo S80, but it honestly still has a more compact experience. The steering has a nice weight to it as well. This guy right here has a bunch of Mazda RX-7s. The steering at lower speeds has a very nice weight to it. Easy to maneuver in parking lots. The turning circle feels tighter than some of my Volvos, which I like. Right now I'm driving this very smoothly, and the ride is a sporty firm, but it's not like jarring or anything like that. I just feel like I'm in something that would be good to take some nice corners with. It's pretty quiet in here too, and I like how the steering wheel feels in my hand. It's a nice weight. I really have been pleasantly surprised. It does feel nicer, substantially nicer than something like an Accord. Still, you have that Honda charm to it, which I like. The shifter is great. That's why I'm warm. I turned on my heated seat. The shifter is great because it's very notchy, very clicky. You know what gear that you're in. I just appreciate that this car doesn't feel cumbersome on this back road right now either. It's easy to downshift the way how the clutch engages. Wow. Wow, this car has some balls. My goodness, I barely touched the gas, and that was in third. It takes bumps great. I mean, Greg was telling me how it takes the bigger bumps in the road very nicely, even though it does have its firm ride. Wow, I can just very quickly feel the sharpness and the response of the all-wheel drive system. Even if I'm not really pushing the throttle that hard, it is very eager to shift power around. I like that. I really feel a great sense of solidity. I feel like I'm in a new car. I love the sound of the engine, and it's interesting, just like how other stock V6 Hondas are, it's pretty quiet still. I don't get much noise in the cabin. You do get your normal level of Honda Acura road noise, but it's not too intrusive. It definitely is more of a premium vibe than the TSX. It really has lighter steering than I would expect as well, which I mean, it's a very quick, snappy steering, but it's just a little bit lighter than I would expect, which makes it easier to toss around. If the steering was heavier, I feel like the car would feel like a boat, but this doesn't feel like much of a boat. I know it is. I know some of the people that have the 3rd Gen TL will say, yeah, this car is so big and heavy, but it doesn't feel like that. Wow. Whoa. Wow. You really don't feel the speed either. And again, that clutch makes it easy. It's just bang, bang, bang. Of course, you know, you're not gonna be like banging gears like you're in an old Civic, but you don't really lose power between shifts. That's what it feels like. Wow. I haven't driven a 3.7 Acura since my dad's MDX, and I was really happy with that powertrain. Wow. It's pretty good. Even though the clutch has this, you know, sporty, snappy feeling, it still is easy to drive this normally. I wouldn't be too bothered in traffic because the clutch is light. I'm not working out too much. This thing has a lot of torque in first gear, and the brakes feel great. Sorry, Greg, I am ruining your average MPG. Now it's 21. At first it was 22 at the beginning of the day, but you know, it's been idling and all this stuff. I don't have to over-explain. You know what I'm doing. The car makes it easy to downshift because there's a lot of throttle response. A lot of great throttle response. I'm not gonna drive it too hard, but we'll do a little bit of a second gear pull. let these guys go ahead of me a little bit. Fuck. You really do feel the added torque of the 3.7 compared to the 3.5 as well. But in typical Honda fashion, this engine has most of its power at the higher end. So you don't get a whole lot of low-end torque, but it's very enjoyable getting this at high revs. If I pop myself in 6th gear, this thing really just loves to sleep down the road. I believe you could probably see 30 mpg in a manual TL like this one. And I'm talking about this in regards to road trips because this car feels like it can do anything. I'd love to drive it in the snow. Super handling all-wheel drive is really good in the snow. Yeah, you know, it's very easy to get the hang of this after a little bit of time. The car is forgiving because it's still a Honda at heart and it's just easy to rev. It's just a really wonderful driving experience. As you can see in the middle, this thing has Acura's updated infotainment system, so it is this large screen. It's not touchscreen though, it just relies on this joystick. It's pretty simple and straightforward. It's not like some of the iDrive systems of this same time either. But thankfully this thing supports both Bluetooth phone and also Bluetooth audio. Let's see this corner. I have these people in front of me, but it really feels sharp. This is what I mean. It doesn't feel big when you're swinging it. That was barely a swing. That was like a little glide. But it really doesn't feel big. It doesn't have that body roll feeling of a big sedan. And that's shocking to me. I thought it would. So it thankfully does not drive like a Honda Accord exactly. We can see how the turning circle is. I'm gonna do a Russian Yui. This thing has a wonderful turning circle, even though it is a bigger sedan. 2nd gear pull. Fuck! Wow! Wow! It just feels so confident too. I'm gonna slow down for this corner and then see what it does. You can see what the all-wheel drive is doing in the gauges too. Let's see. Wow! Holy smokes! It's just so composed. So much so that, I mean, you know, that's not why I've not bought one. I've not bought one because usually these things are like $15,000 to $20,000. I won't say how much, but Greg really got a great price for this car, so it really will treat him well. And then stab at it. It's fabulous. I'm kind of blown away. With an intake and a mild exhaust, I really think it would be great. Great, this guy is turning the same place I'm turning. And you let me go? Maybe he knows I'm filming. And then VTEC comes in at about 4,500 RPM. It's just a fabulous drivetrain. It really is. It puts its power down so good. I'm barely driving this to this thing's abilities, and I'm just, wow, I need to buy one now. The rest of the interior of the TL is pretty nice. Again, I really don't have any complaints about the Acura interiors of this era, besides sometimes you might run into some quality issues like the leather seats. Sometimes the seams might be ripping at this point. I do know that, you know, just like other old cars, the ELS audio system may have some little quirks here and there, but this car doesn't really have anything. I'm going to pull into this for sale house's driveway. It's easy to find reverse in this. And again, the clutch is pretty easy. It doesn't require a whole lot of throttle. It's a really good car. I mean, I knew that, there's a lot of cars that I'd like to buy them, you know, but one day maybe. This thing is just, you drive it and you're like, oh yeah, I'd buy one of these. Yes, it's a good car. It rides great. If you throw it through anything, it will just do it. It's very good, and it's a safe car. It feels safe while I'm doing anything like this. Yeah, there is rev hang if you're just like shifting slowly, but thankfully the car kind of adapts to it. The rest of the interior is also wonderful. The seats in the front are great. I've not moved around at all. They're so supportive. They're heated in this model. As you can see, even on low, it works pretty well. This is a pretty road, but it's just very comfortable. I could sit in this really all day. It's not too firm. It's not too soft, and I feel like it fits my stature quite well. The driver's seat offers full range of power adjustments, even with power lumbar, and thankfully, because this is the TL and not the TSX, this has an 8-way power passenger seat. I really think for being a big sedan, it's easy to park as well. You can see if you're just driving normally, the rev hang just helps the vehicle shift smoother between these gears. Oh my goodness. It really, I mean, you don't feel like you're driving a race car, but it's just so planted. It eats anything. This car is a glutton when it comes to cornering. I love it. Then again, I don't want to forget, the interior is a nice place to be. At higher speeds, I don't get as much road noise. Wind noise is at a minimum. On the highway, this thing feels like a train. You're just, it's just such a great experience driving one of these cars. I really do, I recommend it to everybody. I know Acuras may not be everybody's cup of tea, but it definitely is one of mine. And that, my friends, brings us to the end of our time with the almighty 4th Gen Acura TL. Especially in manual form, this car has exceeded my expectations. Of course, if you're coming from something like an Audi or a BMW, you might keep your nose up, but this is a truly remarkable car. It's sad that Acura doesn't make such a good sedan anymore, and of course, that's why the TLX doesn't exist. The 3.7 is such a great motor, great sound, great power delivery. The transmission is great. It doesn't feel as big as it looks, thankfully, when you send it down a back road. And of course, the super handling all-wheel drive really does add to the character of the car. I'm happy to say, as an older child, the young child in me would still be very happy today to drive this car. I really appreciate Greg for letting us look at his brand new prized possession. Maybe in the future we'll see an update video with this car, but I know for a fact that we'll see many Acura videos on this channel. So definitely stay tuned. I really do appreciate you all hanging out with me today and looking at this absolute unicorn of a car. Let me know in the comments what you drive. It doesn't just have to be a Honda Acura product, but you know I like everything on this channel. So again, I really appreciate you all hanging out with me today, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye peeps.